Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon or Ascendant. For Cancer season or June, July 2026, whatever your timing paradigm is, I'm here for it. Here for you too. I'm using my Bulgarian deck for you today, the 777. I hope you're well. I have a funny feeling, Libra, that you are utterly exhausted. Actually, the meditation that I did before I started the camera rolling felt drained as fuck, but we will have a look into that. So before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's via the links in the description box below. The link to Selfie will take you to the standalone extended for this reading, but if you want access to the rest of the extended content that I make, and I make shitloads, frankly, just loads and loads and loads, you might consider coming over to Circle, which is where my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, is hosted. There you can get obviously all of the extended content for all of the signs every month. So you can have a look for your moon or your ascendant or your sun, whatever you're looking for. But you also get access to the weekly energy readings that I do that are anywhere from 45 minutes up. Come participate in the Deccan Walk, which is us stepping the sun through 10 degrees of the sun through the sky at a time. Stepping the sun through the sky. It's proving to be life-changing and a very stabilizing influence in a very chaotic world. So, you know, that's a whole thing. And if you join at the higher tier, you can come participate in the live classes that we run over there and check out some of the recordings for classes that I've already been before. Also, in the description box is the link to book a private reading with me and some of those self-same classes that I was talking about, which I've made available for sale individually if you don't want to commit to coming to join the community. So check out the description box, loads of stuff in there for you. But Libra, let's get on with what we're doing over here. So we're going to start with looking at the most important question that you can ask yourself in 2026, which is simply, where am I right now? I really do think that is the most important question that you can ask. And then, somewhat inspired by the Deccan Walk and where the sun is at the sky at the moment, we're looking at these kind of Cancerian themes of what needs nourishment and some emotional investment right now. It might be what requires a bit of give and take. We won't know until the cards hit the table, so we'll have a little look at that. And then we'll finish out with the second most important question that you can ask yourself in 2026, which is simply, what is my next step? That's it. That's all we need to know. We don't need to know anything beyond that at this point. So I hope that's okay for you. In the extended, we will expand upon anything that's come out here. So let's have a look and see. Let's get some cards to see where Libra is right now, please. Where is Libra right now? just a mess of cards here, right? So I'm going to show you these, but I'm going to put them back. We've got the Six of Wands with the Tower, the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Pentacles, and the Fool. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to describe what those cards are indicating. I am just going to put them back in and shuffle. And let's go again. Give those cards an opportunity to come out again in a more orderly fashion if they would like to. So we have the Sun. That's lovely. It's Leo energy. We have also the Star. We also have the Five of Swords and the Page of Swords showing up simultaneously with the King of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Now, the Sun and the Star together don't necessarily speak too much of a level of exhaustion, but I do think this Five of Swords showing up is possibly where the issue is. Because what I'm reading from these cards as they're showing up here is there is a very strong desire to be holding a sunny temperament at the moment. It's almost like everything's fine, everything's great. And you are trying to plan forwards. We see that in the Star and we see that in the King of Pentacles. But it feels like you keep running up against the Five of Swords. Now, whether the Five of Swords is representative of the chaotic mental processes that you might be having at the moment, or something that feels kind of self-sabotagey like, I'm not sure. But this Page of Swords here seems to be gathering information about what is going on here, which I like. That's a good place for it to be. And these two, well, let's pull some clarifiers actually. I've got the Deviant Moon here to clarify. Tell me why the Sun is here for Libra, please. Right. We have the Four of Pentacles. And tell me why the Star is here, please. Why is the Star here for Libra? Thank you. Five of Swords again. Four of Cups now sitting at the bottom of the deck. I mean, I feel like this gives us a bit more of a sense of what's happening here with you. And, you know, I was musing just in between finishing the meditation and starting the recording that we have some massive outer planets just having taken up residency in your sister air signs, right? So Gemini has Uranus sitting there, Pluto has Aquarius sitting there. And I think ultimately, whatever's going on in dialogue between those will filter through to Libra at some point. It can't help but not, right? There's always a conversation going on between signs of the same element. But I think there's been scant appearance of either of those energies for you for a little while. You know, Pluto is ultimately trying to help us find our power, and Uranus is trying to break us free of whatever we have built for ourselves. Now, you'll notice here that we have a card that literally represents that kind of rigid stasis, which is the Four of Pentacles. But there's something kind of circuitous about the thinking that's going on underneath it. It's like there's a monumental amount of effort seemingly going into remaining of a sunny disposition and also trying to orient yourself towards your star. And yet it seems that no matter what happens, you seem to end up kind of riding the same part of the roller coaster over and over again. That Four of Cups at the bottom of the deck is quite telling. Not least because it has a kind of rejection sensitivity about it. Now, I don't think the rejection sensitivity is necessarily in the arena of relationships per se, although it might be. It seems to be around this idea of you trying to push forwards and just sort of walking around in circles with yourself somewhat. You know, neither of these cards that are underpinning the major arcana that are showing up for you are particularly supportive. And this Five of Swords is just grotesque. He's sticking his tongue out at the Sun and the Four of Pentacles here. I do feel like a lot of your stability at the moment is consciously focused on trying to keep things from shifting too much from underneath you, which is to say we are kind of firefighting a little bit with situations that may be going on in your life, and it's like no, I'm just trying to bring everything back to this point of stability and structure. And I know the importance of positive thinking, so I'm going to keep a positive mindset while I'm doing it. But then we've got this double Aquarius energy going on here with the Star and the Five of Swords that is looping. Now, wherever we have a 5 show up, and in your case, in both instances, it is the Five of Swords, we have some sort of instability in whatever suit it represents. So here the instability is in the quality of thoughts, the process of the thoughts, the linearity of the thoughts, the processing, all of those kinds of things. It's very airy is what it's saying. And I think it is getting, I think you're putting up a really bold front, Libra, but I think you are becoming disheartened because there's a strength here that I'm seeing exhibited. And the strength is, it's kind of shit for everyone. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm just going to put my head down and just keep working towards a thing. And I'm going to keep smiling. And I'm going to just, I don't want to say fake it until I make it, right? But try and look on the positive side of things. But it's grinding you down. Because whichever direction you try and move yourself in, and we're seeing this King of Pentacles here. He's kind of got his pentacle in hand, and he's like, oh, okay, maybe this is the direction that I need to go in, and trying to head that way. We get this kind of circuitous thing going round and round and round, and there's a creeping malaise that's starting to show up, that seems to be born from the I'm kind of running out of options, and I'm kind of running out of fucking optimism, frankly. What's underneath that Four of Cups? Oh, a hidden card. Let's spin it over. Ace of Wands. Now, I feel very strongly that the Ace of Wands is the energy that you actually want to connect to, very, very strongly. But you've got to battle through this Four of Cups, and it seems that no matter which direction you're trying to put the Ace of Wands in, it isn't really showing itself up. Now, this Page of Swords and Five of Swords dynamic here, there are two different ways of looking at this. The first is that the Page of Swords is open to new ideas. He is actively information gathering, and he's gathering information outside of him to try and get some sort of idea of the next move forwards. He's like, well, clearly I just don't have enough information. I haven't looked at enough things. I haven't considered enough possibilities. I've just got to keep doing that. And the Five of Swords is kind of chopping off that energy at the knees and saying, well, it doesn't matter. Or here's a new idea, try this one, and then it doesn't work. And it says it's consistently back to the grindstone kind of energy, right? But I do wonder if the Page of Swords is a deflection, which is to say, doing an awful lot of looking outside and not a lot of looking inside for what needs to shift in there. Now, let me pull out a card to clarify this. Eight of Cups and the Three of Swords. I'm going to go with the latter interpretation. I feel like Page of Swords is acting somewhat as a deflection for you at this point, in so much as, sorry, I'll take my sandals off. It is currently 30 degrees in this room and considerably warmer outside. Oh, I just need to let my feet breathe. In so much as it seems to be indicating that you are looking for solutions outside of yourself, when the solutions, perhaps not the ones that you're looking for, but certainly the ones that might shift this situation on, are to be found inside. Now, this is often the way that it happens. I mean, there's nothing terribly controversial about even just that as an idea. But I am interested to see this Libra card, this Three of Swords, showing up as the shadow card at the bottom of the reading for the clarifiers. Because when you put these two cards together like that, far from, putting down emotional baggage, it feels more like, no, I ain't going there. I'm not looking at that thing. That's far too uncomfortable. The answer must exist outside of me. And that would explain strongly the Five of Swords. We are in a time of great change, but certainly when it comes to the kind of changes that are affecting us on the micro level, there is a strong push for us to internally process a lot of things right now and show up differently, right? We're trying not to carry any baggage along. But there's something about the way that you're looking at this that makes it seem to me like you see the Three of Swords as the baggage that you are not going anywhere near, and I'm not carrying that, thank you very much. So you're going around and around in circles without ever really nailing what the actual issue is. I can see why this would be leading to exhaustion, not least trying to maintain this optimistic front. But also, when we're bobbing and weaving and trying to avoid looking at a thing, that is very fucking tiring. Particularly if it keeps being presented to us right in the face. And we're like, oh, no, I didn't see that. I'm off, I'm away. So, in the first instance, we are well aware that you need to take a little bit of time to look after yourself properly. And I'm afraid part of that is looking at what is kind of knocking and asking to be let in. What kind of difficulty are you not looking at yet because it's just a little bit too painful? Now, this is a Saturn card. And one of the tedious things about Saturn's intervention anywhere is that he doesn't let up until we get the message. I am a Saturn-ruled sign. I can absolutely testify to this being the case. So when we are avoidant, even if it is for what seems to be the best reasons, we're trying to remain optimistic and trying to work with ourselves. If we are bobbing and weaving the actual lesson, Saturn will grind you down until the point where you just give up, because it's actually easier to give up than it is to resist. Again, speaking from experience. So let's have a little look at the center here and see what's going on. What's going on? So we've got the Page of Wands on its side. We've got the Hanged Man. And we've got two reversals here, Two of Pentacles and the Five of Pentacles. Not bad at all. Really not bad cards. At the bottom of the deck, we do have the Chariot card. And that makes a lot of sense, particularly when we were talking about avoidance. Because, yes, the Chariot card is about movement forwards, and we like to see it. It's one of the tarot's green lights for moving forward on some sort of plan or whatever. But there is a deeper interpretation of the Chariot, which we can't really ignore. I actually just did... Who did I do? I just did Gemini's reading before yours, and the Chariot also came up there, which is interesting because I don't think the Chariot has shown up in any other readings, but here are two air signs in quick succession. It's showing up for you. And that deeper meaning of the Chariot revolves around the idea that the Chariot represents the balance of self. So it's about balancing the internal polarities of self, such that when you move forwards, you're moving forwards with your horses, as it is in this one, absolutely aligned. If you've got one on a shorter rein than the other, you are going to end up going around in circles without even realizing why. And I wonder if that's it. If you're keeping what you don't want to look at a pretty short leash, so you don't have to interact with it too often, it seems to be dragging the whole Chariot around in circles. Now, sometimes the Chariot can also indicate shadow work to me, because we have that charioteer in the center, acting as the integrating force between the two polarities, which are the horses or the sphinxes or whatever it is that's depicting pulling the Chariot along. And that card represents the sign of Cancer, which obviously during this time is where the sun is. But it is not solely the sun that is there. We also have Jupiter sitting there, at least until the 30th of June. And Mercury is also co-present. Now, Mercury is getting ready to station retrograde on, I think, the 29th of June, whereupon he will spend the entirety of Cancer season in a retrograde state. 23rd of July is when he stations direct and starts moving forwards again. And so there is a kind of implication here that all the forces are asking you to look at what you are in a state of avoidance about. Now, the other thing that we need to take into account with Cancer being cardinal water is that that provides a 90-degree square to you as cardinal air. Whenever the cardinal energies are interacting with each other, they are creating this point of tension through a square where something's got to give. And it's very rarely the applying force that is the one that needs to give. Usually it's what it's applying to where change is asking to be brought to the table. So, as much as I hate to say it, and obviously it's not just you, there's also Capricorn and Aries that are also getting that same kind of, with Capricorn, it's an opposition rather than a square, but there's certainly that kind of point of confrontation or point of abrasion that's going on for all of the cardinal signs at the moment. I think the thing that we have to recognise is there isn't much in the way of moving forwards in Cancer season. I've actually seen this pretty much across the board for all of the signs for Cancer season. Because there are much bigger stories starting to pull together during this time. I think at the point where Jupiter moves into Leo, we've got quite a big expansion of things that are loud. And because we have successive important transits happening across the Leo-Aquarius axis, so obviously, as I already mentioned, we've got Pluto in Aquarius. The North Node will be moving into Aquarius toward the end of July. And in the sign of Leo, obviously, we'll be having the South Node. Jupiter is also there. Excuse me. But we will also be having a solar eclipse on the 12th of August that is occurring in the sign of Leo. So there's an awful lot of energy along that whole axis for you. And I do think it represents the shift from the first half of the year, which has been very chaotic, very disorienting, but ultimately seeding a lot of things, versus the beginning of the emergence of those things coming out of the ground in the second half of 2026. And because a lot of that is quite shocking, and because a lot of that is part of a bigger story that is playing out at the moment, there seems to be this this need for every sign to really pay attention to what is complex and deep and emotional within them during this time, and work on that, so that as we move into this very much noisier energy along the Leo Aquarius axis, that we show up correct. Now, Uranus as a disrupting force in the sign of Gemini means that Pluto isn't really facing all the stuff in Leo alone. He's got his buddy on, but you know, they are talking to each other by trine right now. And just has the capacity for an awful lot of wind and fury and flames right across that axis there. So if we are walking around as things currently are, being like, this is fine, it's no problem, we're all good, and slowly getting ground down by Saturn, and slowly losing that brightness about ourselves, and I do feel like that's kind of what's happened here with you, Libra, then as we see here, it's kind of necessary to do a little bit of an about face, if only to recognize the fact that there is work here to do internally. Now, this Page of Wands has shown up on his side rather than upright, which I feel for you is kind of like a fork in the road, actually. And it's not presenting like a crossroads like we would normally understand it. It's where the road branches off. And you're being asked to take a route that doesn't seem quite as obvious as what you have been doing. And here's the thing. I think it's doing you a massive favour in even giving you the option to do that. Because ultimately Saturn seems to be trying to convince you to kind of lean into this energy. And I'm thinking about the energy of the Three of Swords here. It's saying, deal with this, deal with me. This is really important. But there's something about it, the way that the appearance of Saturnian energy here is kind of puncturing that rather optimistic outlook that you've been labouring so hard to keep during this time. There's something that by definition will end up deflating as a result. But at the same time, in that deflation, you've actually got a better sense of what it is that is the problem, what it is that you need to work with, what it is that is the truth of the matter. then what you can see, well, it's got this big inflated kind of emotional protective balloon around it at this point. Do you see what I mean? Now, my experience of dealing with Saturn is, if I ever turn away from Saturn and go, no, no, not today, thank you, I'm quite happy and optimistic in this direction, then it's like being a child in the 80s and getting a board rubber like hurled across the fucking classroom at the back of your head. It's just like, no, no, you will pay attention. And so, like I said, there's actually something quite gentle in the off-ramp that's being offered to you here. But I don't think that... Touche. There were 2 of Wands, right? Here's the Knight of Wands too. It's saying now. Like, you really have to pay attention now. Because from this point on, it gets considerably less gentle, I think, in showing up and being asked to be dealt with. Interestingly enough, this card also came up for Gemini, and I was struck by the fact that we didn't have this kind of crossroads energy. It was utilizing a tool. And so there was this idea of synthesis being really quite important in terms of looking around at the tools at your disposal and realizing that you have the tools that you need for the job. I think where you are trying to avoid looking at what is currently painful and you end up seemingly circling back to the same spot over and over again, it is effectively undermining the fact that you have all the tools to deal with this. And you have all the tools to completely change your perspective on all of this. I mean, the Hanged Man is a very necessary change of perspective, and one that we can see would come on the other side of you dealing with the Three of Swords. But it is also a card of surrender to circumstance, surrender to the energies of the moment. It's like, stop fighting it, Libra. Even if you are trying to fight it with optimism, sometimes things really are difficult and hard, and sometimes they require you going, well, that's just less than fucking stellar, but I see it for what it is, and I'm going to work with it. Instead of trying to double down on this position, like everything's great, everything's like the dog meme, right, with the cup while the whole house is on fire. This is fine. This is fine. There's no reason why it can't be fine, but it has to be fine via this prescribed route that it seems that Saturn is asking you to take. So again, Neptune is in Aries, Saturn is in Aries. Both of these are on the other side of the chart to you. They are acting as an opposition to anything that you have in Libra. There's a kind of shouting match starting between, you know, whatever your Libra placement is versus what's going on over there on the other side, which is kind of confusing too. I mean, Saturn is still technically conjunct Neptune, even though there's almost a third of the sign away from each other. They're still within 10 degrees. So I feel like your strength is going to dwindle rapidly if we don't see this for the teaching moment that it is. I like the fact that the Two of Pentacles is there with the Five of Pentacles, and both of them are reversed, not least because the Five of Pentacles is a stabilization of a scarcity mindset, right? Where we are worried about losing something, we're worried about not having something, we're worried about how our basic needs are not met. When that shows up in the reverse, what we've got is a stabilizing energy that's showing up here, and that's really, really good. But we have to allow ourselves to contemplate that which is not currently nourishing us in order to correct it, rather than being like, no, thank you, I'm not looking at that right now. Tell me about this. Hanged Man, please. Chariot, yeah. Now, the Ace of Swords is at the bottom of the deck, and we've got the Chariot showing up here. So we've got the Chariot twice on the table. There is an opportunity to access something really, really deep within you here and correct where that feeling is coming from in a way that is only possible when we are willing to turn our sights within. But this Ace of Swords, which is a card of higher truth, access to higher truth, and that higher truth that essentially allows us to see everything very, very differently. The problem isn't outside of you. The problem is a perspective, a perception issue. Once corrected, allows you to see the right way forward rather than the circular route that you've been taking over and over again. This makes sense to you. So let's have a look at the next step, please, for Libra. Next step for Libra. So notice that the cards have been quite quiet when I've been asking them to come forward. And it feels avoidant. Again, it's like, no, I'm good. I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to think about it. I don't need to do any of these things. So Page of Pentacles with the Emperor. Very, very strong energy. Come on. Queen of Swords. There you are, Libra, showing up. Come on. One more, please, for Libra. Fucking hell. Right, well, there we go. So we've got the Hermit at the bottom of the deck, but we also have the Ten of Pentacles and the Ten of Wands showing up together. Now, I said right from the outset there was an exhaustion here, and I know I've been beating that drum for the last half an hour that I've been talking to you, but it is very real. And I think it doesn't stop being real just because you are choosing not to look at it. Now, please understand me when I say that I think that the rest of 2026 is going to be a bit of an ordeal. You know, we've lost none of the intensity of the first half of the year, and it just sort of builds from here. And what was the quiet part of the year, we're pretty much done with now. And that's to say, you know, sort of last 2 weeks of May and June. It's been relatively quiet, which is absurd to think about when you consider all the things that have gone on in the last 6 weeks or so, right? But this is the case. So you are doing yourself no favors by allowing yourself to drain yourself during the quiet part of the year. None at all. Better to purge whatever it is that is bothering you, for which you're going to have to turn around and look at it and then deal with it. And at the very least, dealing with it is accepting that it is present under consideration. So that you can move forwards. Now, whether or not this revolves around family or business, that's entirely possible because we do see the Ten of Pentacles there. Or whether it is a state of endings that's going on around that which you have found up until this point suitably stable and solid enough for you to be able to pretend that's what everything else looks like. I'm not sure, but this is draining you and it needs to stop. And the only way it can stop is rather counterintuitively dealing with the thing that you are not looking at right now. Because the Queen of Swords, who is the bastion of, you know, justice and, she's a lower echo of justice for me, and discernment, ultimately helps us understand what we think. Now, for you, it's a little more complex than that because she isn't just here to help you work out what you think. She's also being here going, why are you acting in a way that is not in alignment with the energies that we usually present? Like, why are you turning away from what feels emotionally difficult? We can deal with this. We can absolutely do it. But I need you to show up as you actually are. And then I can help you understand what's going on. Because this situation needs taking in hand. When the Emperor shows up, we are never, ever relinquishing control of anything. We are quite literally doing the opposite. We are, you know, taking control of something. But we're doing it from a place of gentle authority. And that extends to even if we are doing it with ourselves. What the Emperor wants us to do is take charge and understand the value of taking charge, even in those things that are uncomfortable, because we're staving off the level of exhaustion that we're incurring from trying not to deal with it. I mean, the Hermit card is at the bottom of the deck here, and it's saying everywhere you've been looking, Libra, you're not going to find the answer, because the lesson of the moment is about what's going on internally for you. Now, with the Sun in Cancer and Mercury in Cancer, even Jupiter in Cancer for a little bit of this season, providing that square for you, that needs dealing with. But you've also got this opposition that's coming through from Neptune and Saturn in Aries. All of this is pointing to a kind of internal movement that longer term will facilitate the kind of movements that you've been trying to make outside. But there's no stone that at this point it serves to leave unturned internally, Libra, because, like I said, things are about to get very loud and very, very intense, and we need to make sure that we've got every tool at our disposal available for use, for moving forwards. An oddly specific reading. Nevertheless, this seems to be what it is for you this month. So I'm going to go over to the extended and we're going to dig into this a little bit more. I think I would like to have a look into the Three of Swords and try and ascertain the nature of that a little bit, along with some advice for dealing with it and uncovering it and moving forward and all that sort of stuff. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I would be delighted to see you in either place. Otherwise, no shade, you do you, boo, and all of that. This is not a question of strength, or rather, this is not a question of weakness. This is a question of one of those spectres that's grown so large in the periphery of our vision that we don't want to look at it. But I think when we look at it directly, we see it for what it is. See the thing, name the thing, you're already processing the thing, you know? I know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.